Ahoy! Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and whatever else you need to hear. It's December 25th, 2016. We're going to speak on forgiveness. But before that, we need to do a review of why most of it is just lip service, and most people don't have an understanding of what forgiveness is because they have so much hatred in their heart. Oftentimes justified hatred. So let's just do a little recap. You must die at the stake. You don't believe what we believe. They're witches. They're blasphemers. Shh. Ding, 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 ding. Ali Akbar! Ali Akbar! Take two. So, I'm a Hollywood starlet, and just by default, that makes me superior. And I really feel that we need to come together as one. And I'm going to take all the money and proceeds from my performance and give it to the hungry, sick children of Mozambique. Behind the stage, I said red M&Ms. I need red M&Ms. You don't seem to understand who I am, little bitch. Shortly, at a dinner, not too many hours from now, yes, I'll have some mashed potatoes, Mom. No, I don't drink anymore. Okay, since I'm the only one who can face reality in this family, I'm going to broach the subject that no one wants to talk about. Daddy, you did it. I know you did it, and I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to have my own personal intervention at Christmas because it's the only time we get together, and I am the only one who can speak the truth. I am the only one who has it in her heart to forgive. Hello. I'm so glad you came. I am here, the purveyor of all that's beautiful and wonderful, and I want to preach all this wonderful unity and togetherness. And even though we didn't get our way, even though we didn't win the election, we must persevere. We must see this as an invitation into our heart to forgive those who need forgiving. Well, I say, I did the best I could. I did the best I could, dear. You don't seem to understand what happened to me when I was growing up. Won't you look in the mirror, you little bitch? You bring that up at Christmas time. Who do you think you are? I'm not going to forgive you. You don't even forgive me. We're not going to forgive. Fuck it. You don't even know what forgiveness is. Hello. That's about all I can handle of that. You get the drift. All right. So we have a problem on our hands. Someone asked me to talk on forgiveness. Excuse me, I have to pick up Snowman. He knew he was acting. He knows that I know he's got consciousness in there. And look, I have my bathing suit on. The blue robe needed a break. Anyway, excuse me. I'm going to put that NRA hat on. I love my dad. He was a Buddhist, but he was also a member of the NRA, which I think is fabulous. There you go. Let me fix this now. So forgiveness is not words. It is a state of being, and that's why it's so challenging for people. I'm speaking on forgiveness. One, I had a student ask me to last evening, but also, ironically, or not so ironically, it's the energy that Jesus brought to the planet. So every avatar, Buddha, Muhammad, Brahma Krishna, Jesus, Holy Mother, they have a particular energy that they're highlighting, if you will, for a particular entree. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, but just to give you an idea. And JC's was forgiveness, because he came at a time when, as per usual, there are times on the planet when the violence sort of surges up, and that was one of the times. Most avatars come when there's a surge of violence or a surge of like the philosophies, the religions have become decayed and bloated and ineffective. Like Buddha came at that time, and Krishna came. So JC came at that time, the Roman Empire, and it was their turn. Everyone's got their turn in the light. So he emphasized forgiveness, forgiving, giving. Reason being, it's sort of what we spoke of last week, the original sin and the master wound. Because whatever you think is not forgivable will stalk you until you actually accept it, which actually is the first movement towards sitting in a place of forgiveness. That's why forgiveness is such an important spiritual practice on a daily basis. It's also, I like to use the word mercy, because that mercy is a conscious tempering of your small ego that wants to react, respond, or feel indignant or whatever. So there's the small things that happen to us, and just like I acted out, there's the big things, the abuses, the disregard, all these things that happen to us in our lives. That's really, really where the big guns come out, because they happen to us. They occur for us. You've heard me say a million times, to help temper our ego, help cultivate our understanding. Without these things occurring, we would not be able to break this thing open and grow spiritually. Now, you can only hear this when you can hear it. Right? So if you're already starting to justify and say, well, that's just unforgivable, Revzo, that's just, I can't, well, then that's fine, right? What all I would invite you to do is to then shine a light on what you perceive as unforgivable and really spend time with it. And really get scientific. There's a time and a place to get scientific. Examine how much energy you put into that. How much this incident or event or experience you base decisions on, or you inform your life on. How do you live through that? How is that affecting you? Really start looking at it. Not because I'm saying it, but to be very curious about these things that you consider unforgivable. Because JC, and I'm highlighting JC because today's Christ Mass, but it's all the masters, okay? I guarantee you. Really saw that in the Old Testament, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth was going nowhere, right? Because revenge begets revenge, kind of what I just acted out, right? So his whole thing was, which is part of the reason why he upset people, is because he was like, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't take you to the kingdom of heaven. That doesn't open up your heart. Excuse me, Starbucks. And that was what he was interested in. If your enemy hits you on one side, turn the other cheek. There's a depth to that. Buddha was big on this. Like if someone comes and takes, there's all these stories. Rabbis have stories around this. The Buddhists have stories around this. Like if someone comes into your house and takes your jacket, give them all your clothes. It's deep. You must reflect on this. It's not being a pussy. It's not being passive. It's an ideal. Okay, so try not to take it too literally, even though there is a literal nature to it. Because what they were advocating is freedom. Like where we cannot accept and willingly grant mercy or acceptance, we are making ourselves hostage to the thing, right? Whatever the experience is. And this takes a while to get it, right? You got to go through like that young girl I was acting out at the dinner, that's a process. You got to go through your intervention. I'm going to bring truth to the world trip until you kind of see it for what it is. It may take lifetimes, it's not a problem. Like this is not a problem. I like this NRA hat. This ensemble. I am going to read from the Bible, so, get over it. here's how I'm speaking to this right now, because this quote, this is from Matthew, for those who are interested. Matthew 15, verse 8. These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are but rules taught by men. That is so relevant for today, right? Oh, you must forgive them, or we must forgive. We just acted out some of that, right? It's just, it's ideal, but it's not the practice, right? This sort of leans to the political correct stuff too that's so prevalent. Like, well, if I don't say these words and I say these words, then that's going to create a utopia or a nice world. And quite frankly, it doesn't. It suppresses the rage and anger. And then that blasts off into things around the world that you see. That's a whole other topic. You know, that's a whole other ball of beans. But revenge begets revenge. Read this verse on your own. Luke chapter 6, verses 27 through 36. Be merciful just as your Father is merciful. You can change that to mother, it's not a problem. Mercy, the practice of mercy, which I need to do a class again on mercy. It's fabulous. Is a little different. It's a slightly different because it's in present time that you're doing it, and it's not a pity and it's not a condescension. Mercy is a very humbling practice, and also a good thing to practice is you never know someone else's experience, right? It's best to salute whatever happens and have your freedom. I don't know. I'm assuming that if you're watching me, you want your freedom, right? Versus your justifications. Or you may be in a place where you're still struggling, and that's just fine. There's like, what, how are you showing up today? And or my Sunday salutations is just fine, love. That's why you got these, right? You can go back and reflect and go, what was that raving lunatic talking about? Luke, chapter 6, verse 37, right after the one I invited you to read on your own. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Very important practice, forgiveness. And here's the thing. If you have to say it, you're not in it. You know you're in a state of forgiveness. This is the penultimate. I know it drives people crazy because it's not the ultimate, but I like the word penultimate. This is a process to get here, but when you actually feel at the deepest part of your being that nothing should be different, that whatever experience that you had to go on a journey being upset about and angry about, which is natural and it's very important, that you come to a place, you land, it feels like you land on a big, a big mesa, like all of a sudden there's breath, and all of a sudden you feel at the very being, I wouldn't change anything. Everything is perfect. When you wouldn't want to change one single hair of that experience, that you see it in its perfection, and you see it in your important to your evolution, and you could see the humanity of that person or situation. A very deep place. I will end with Hafiz. I just taught a class on Holy Mother last Tuesday. It was a fabulous class. So I'm just going to read Holy Mother. This is Sri Ramakrishna's wife. She said, malice, deceit, killing of holy men, these are vidential disturbances like war. They lead to the suffering of the people and cause, disturbances like war, earthquake, and famine. So it's what I've said a million times. That's why I was sort of acting out these people. We have all these grand notions, but then we turn and we act like beasts. right? Which is where, like, if you want to help the world, like, look at your life and how you conduct yourself, right? That's really important. And then you can write a check to whatever, right? But do it out of service. Don't do it out of you think you're actually helping somebody. Do it out of service to the God and man. That's what I'm getting ahead of myself. Forgiveness. Okay, here we go. And then I'll let you go. I have come into this world to see this. I have come into this world to see this. The sword dropped from men's hands, even at the height of their arc of anger. Because we have finally realized there is just one flesh to wound, and it is his, the Christ's, our beloved's. Hafiz was a Sufi, which is the mystical branch of Islam, and they honored Christ. I have come into this world to see this. All creatures hold hands as we pass through this miraculous existence, as we share on the way to even a greater being of soul, a being of just ecstatic light, forever entwined and at play with him. I have come into this world to hear this. Every song the earth has sung since it was conceived in the divine's womb and began spinning from his wish. Every song by wing and fin and hoof. Every song by hill and field and tree and woman and child. Every song of stream and rock. Every song of tool and lyre and flute. Every song of gold and emerald and fire. Every song the heart should cry with magnificent dignity to know itself as God. For all other knowledge will leave us again in want and aching. Only imbibing the glorious sun will complete us. Only the glorious sun. I have come into this world to experience this. Men so true to love, they would rather die before speaking an unkind word. Men so true, their lives are his covenant, the promise of hope. I have come into this world to see this, the sword drop from men's hands, even at the height of their arc of rage. Because we have finally realized there is just one flesh we can wound. After this, how did the rose, short one, how did the rose ever open its heart and give to this world all of its beauty? It felt the encouragement of light against its being. Otherwise, we all remain too frightened. Much love. Merry Christmas. Have a good time. Be sweet. Be gentle. Enjoy the dichotomy. Another day on paradise. Love you. Bye.